The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, sending golden liquid and crystal shards across my mother's designer shoes. For once, her perfectly composed face cracked, revealing something raw and ugly beneath. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the moment she grabbed that microphone and destroyed what should have been the happiest day of my life. My name is James, and I had just married Sarah, the woman who somehow saw past my family's dysfunction to love the man I fought to become. The reception was in full swing at the Grandview Hotel's ballroom, 200 guests, a live band, thousands of dollars in flowers that my mother had insisted on. Everything was perfect until the speeches began. My best man had just finished a heartfelt toast when my mother, Patricia Winters, stood up and tapped her champagne glass. This wasn't planned. The wedding coordinator looked confused as Mom made her way to the microphone, her smile so bright it could have powered the chandelier. "I know this isn't on the schedule," she began, laughing that tinkling laugh she perfected at country club luncheons, but a mother's joy simply cannot be contained. The crowd chuckled politely. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. She knew my history with my mother, knew the scars that designer clothing and charity galas couldn't hide. "For 32 years, Mom continued, Richard and I have been blessed with James. But today, we're gaining something we've always dreamed of, a real daughter." The room shifted uncomfortably. Sarah's smile faltered. "James has been a good son," Mom said, emphasizing good like it was a participation trophy. "But as any parent knows, there's something special about daughters. They're softer, more caring, more connected to their families." My father nodded along like a bobblehead, oblivious to the tension spreading through the room like spilled wine. "Which is why," Mom reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "We've prepared something special. Sarah, sweetheart, would you come up here?" Sarah looked at me, confusion clear in her green eyes. I shook my head slightly, but she was already standing, ever the gracious bride trying to keep peace. "We've consulted with lawyers," Mom announced as Sarah reached the microphone. "And we want to make it official. We're offering to adopt you as our legal daughter." She thrust the envelope at Sarah like it was a winning lottery ticket. The room went silent except for the band's equipment humming in the background. I don't understand," Sarah said quietly. "It's simple, dear. We've never had a daughter, and James, well," Mom laughed again. "That sounds like breaking glass. Let's just say he hasn't exactly been the child we envisioned. Always so serious, so distant. But you're everything we could have wanted. Sweet, accommodating, from a good family. This way, you'll really be our daughter. Our actual daughter." That's when I stood up. "Sit down, James," Mom said sharply. "This is between us and Sarah." "No," I said, pulling out my phone. "This is between all of us, and the 200 witnesses you gathered here. What are you doing?" Dad finally spoke, half rising from his chair. Something I should have done years ago. I connected my phone to the DJ's sound system. Thank God for tech-savvy wedding vendors. "You want to talk about the son you never wanted? Let's talk." The first recording began to play through the speakers. "Richard, I can't believe we're having a boy. I had the nursery all planned for a girl. Pink walls, ballet lessons, mother-daughter teas. What am I supposed to do with a boy?" "We'll try again, Patricia. Maybe the next one will be a girl." That was from my mother's home videos, dated 2 weeks before I was born. The room collectively held its breath as the next recording played. James got straight A's again. I swear, it's like he does it to spite me. Jennifer's daughter got B's, but she's on the cheerleading team. That's what matters, being well-rounded social. James just hides in his room with his books like some kind of hermit. That was from a phone call with her sister when I was 12. "Turn it off," Mom shrieked, but I was just getting started. The recordings kept coming. Years of overheard conversations, voicemails she left thinking I deleted them. Videos from family gatherings where she thought I wasn't paying attention. "We're redoing our will. Everything will go to our future daughter-in-law. Maybe she'll give us the grandchildren we actually want to spoil. I bought another dress today, for my future daughter. I know it's silly, but I keep hoping James will marry someone I can finally dress up, someone who'll want to go shopping with me. Sometimes I forget I even have a son. Is that terrible? It's just, he's so independent. Never needed me the way a daughter would." The last recording was from just a month ago, a conversation with her book club. "Thank God James is finally getting married. Sarah's perfect. Moldable. I've already started calling her my daughter. Maybe I can have the relationship with her that I never could with James. He's always been so cold, so unforgiving. Probably because he sensed I wanted a girl. Children can tell, you know. The ballroom was tomb silent. My mother stood frozen at the microphone, her face the color of old paper. Sarah still held the adoption papers, her hands trembling. You documented everything, Mom whispered. Every birthday you forgot because it wasn't a daughter's party. Every accomplishment you dismissed because it wasn't feminine enough. Every time you introduced me as just James while fantasizing about the daughter you never had. I walked toward the microphone, my footsteps echoing. And now you want to adopt my wife to finally get that daughter? At my wedding. James, please, Dad tried. Your mother loves you. No, I cut him off. She loves the idea of a child. Just not the child she got. Sarah found her voice. You want to adopt me because James isn't the daughter you wanted. Mom tried to recover, smoothing her dress with shaking hands. It's not like that. We just thought, you're so wonderful, and we want to make you official family. I am official family, Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. I married your son, your actual child, the one you've spent 32 years wishing was someone else. She tore the adoption papers in half, then quarters, then kept tearing until confetti floated around her wedding dress. We're leaving, I announced to the room. Please enjoy the reception. The food is paid for, the bar is open, and the band is excellent. But my wife and I won't be spending another minute here. You can't leave your own wedding. Mom's mask finally shattered completely. Do you know how this looks? What people will say? They'll say a mother tried to replace her son with his bride because she never wanted a boy in the first place. I took Sarah's hand. They'll say she announced it at his wedding, in front of everyone, because she's so consumed by her own desires she couldn't see how cruel it was. I gave you everything. Mom screamed. Private schools, summer camps, college. You gave me things, I agreed, but you never gave me acceptance. You never gave me the chance to be enough. Sarah's father stood up then, his military bearing evident even in a tuxedo. Patricia, I think you should know that several of us are lawyers. What you've attempted here, trying to coerce my daughter into a legal adoption at her own wedding, explicitly stating it's because your son isn't the child you wanted, could be considered emotional abuse and harassment. I suggest you sit down and be quiet before you make things worse. But Mom wasn't done. She grabbed the microphone again. He's lying. Those recordings are out of context. I've been a wonderful mother. That's when Aunt Linda, my mother's own sister, stood up. Patricia, stop. We all heard you. We've all heard you for years. The way you talk about James versus how you gush over everyone else's daughters. It's been painful to watch. Even at Christmas, my cousin Marie added, you make him sit at the kids' table while you pull all the adult women aside for girl talk. He's 32. Remember when he graduated summa cum laude? Uncle George called out, you spent the entire party talking about how you wish you had a daughter graduating so you could have gone dress shopping. One by one, family members and friends began sharing moments they'd witnessed. The pattern of rejection disguised as parental love. The constant comparisons to daughters she didn't have. The way she'd light up when meeting other people's daughters while barely acknowledging her own son's presence. Mom stood there as her carefully constructed image crumbled. The perfect mother, the devoted parent, the victim of an ungrateful child. All of it fell apart under the weight of documented truth. We're done here, I said finally. Sarah and I are leaving for our honeymoon. When we get back, we'll be building our own family, one where children are loved for who they are, not resented for who they're not. If you leave, you're out of the will. Dad finally found his backbone, or at least his wallet. Keep your money, I said. I'd rather be poor and loved than rich and tolerated. As Sarah and I walked toward the exit, the wedding coordinator caught up with us. Mr. Winters, what about the rest of the reception? Let them stay, I said. Let them eat cake and dance and pretend this is normal. It's what my family does best. But then something unexpected happened. My groomsmen stood up. Then Sarah's bridesmaids. Then our friends, one by one, began following us out. Where are you going? Mom called out desperately. To the after party, my best man announced. The real celebration. For the couple who just showed us what love actually looks like. Choosing each other over toxic family patterns. By the time we reached the door, half the wedding had joined our exodus. We ended up at a dive bar down the street, still in our wedding clothes, eating wings and sharing real stories. Sarah's dad made a new toast about courage and breaking cycles. My friends shared memories of times they'd witnessed my mother's behavior and wished they could have said something. And Sarah, she held my hand and whispered, "Thank you for finally standing up to her, for choosing us." 6 months later, we got a letter from my mother's lawyer. She was threatening to sue for emotional distress and defamation. We responded with a cease and desist letter and a thumb drive containing every recording, every email, every text message where she'd expressed her disappointment in having a son. We haven't heard from them since. Sarah and I are expecting now, a little girl. My mother doesn't know. She'll never know, because the cycle stops here. Sometimes Sarah asks if I regret how our wedding ended. I tell her the truth. I regret that it took me 32 years to stop trying to be the daughter my mother wanted instead of the son I actually was. But that wedding, that disaster of a reception that became local legend, that was the day I finally became free. The day I stopped carrying the weight of being the wrong child and started building a family where every child is the right one. The adoption papers made beautiful confetti, and somewhere in that ballroom, among the crystal shards and torn documents, my mother finally learned that you can't replace a child you never learned to love. You can only lose them.